Welcome to Play-to-Play report for Starlink Battle for Atlas. Well, let's start with this. Well, what to say about the Starlink Battle for Atlas? Well, this was supposed to be a Toys to Live game. Actually, when it was premiered and people saw it was like a space combat game, everybody was very hopeful. Then everybody saw that it was a toys game, and people like, oh, this is for kids. Really disappointed. But then Ubisoft eventually came out and said, well, no, don't worry about it. I think that was after the release on the Switch. They said, don't worry about it, we're gonna make it so that you don't need to actually buy the toys. Toys buying is an optional component. Yes, you can buy them, but you don't have to. You can also buy stuff digitally, so in a way that was kind of solved all the problems for people who were like, oh, I don't want to buy the toys. It's like it's another Skylanders or Disney Infinity type of thing. And so this game came out. Apparently it didn't do so well, and I didn't understand that at first, but then I'm kind of understand why now after I looked into it. But I'm gonna get to the details later on. So there you go. You see, so here we are. This is a space combat game. Easily fly around, do whatever you want. There's a map of the system where you can fly. It's a very large system. There's different planets. It's actually a seamless transition from space to planet to the surface. There's no loading screens as such. And like I said, there's a few different planets. There's also such things as shipwrecks. Now they're showing up on my map. They don't show usually. You do have to find them yourself, but they are there. There's also additional shipwrecks that don't show up at all. You just happen to on them. This guy's at the major shipwrecks. There's also minor ones. There's a what's called the outlaw bases, which you can also attack and conquer. You cannot hold them, but you do get benefits from kind of conquering them, I guess, so just beating them. They act as kind of a type of a boss fights in a way. And then there's of course the enemy, in which case you can see here the enemy being highlighted because that's a mission right now that's active, and the enemies have ships. They have something called primes, which like type of robots that walk on the surface. They have those guys like at the those guys act as the world bosses, and there's also something called extractors, which kind of act as a mini bosses. It's stationary towers, but they do fire off things. And I actually will maybe show you exactly what it is like to fight one of them, because I'm just gonna go to this planet. I left this planet specifically unexplored. I haven't done anything there specifically for this reason, so that I can show the actual gameplay to you guys directly. And see, I also have a fast travel option here available because I already once traveled to the planet, so we're going fast travel. I'm not gonna go through the space, it's gonna take a while. We don't really have that much time to go through all this, and I decided to jump through. Now, what you might have noticed is saying that, well, you have still missions going on. How come this is a report? Usually don't issue reports when there's some gameplay not finished in the game. In this case, I'm issuing a report because I finished the main storyline. That's why it is. So I've decided that this is sufficient enough for me to provide my opinion on the game, definitely enough for it not to be an impressions, but to be a report. Now, what's left? Well, there's a certain after the main mission, the main storyline ends. There's a certain thing that given to you, something along the lines of mop-up operations that you're supposed to be doing, and so this is part of it. That's why the missions are here. They're saying to go ahead and do a mop-up operation. By the way, this ship can drop primes. This mechanized robots that will plant the extractors that I already mentioned as kind of a mid-level bosses and so on. This is the timer. It is telling me that in 1 minute and 9 seconds it will do so on one of these planets here. So you want to kind of take these ships out, but the more primes they drop, the more powerful they become and so on. So it's kind of you have to balance yourself between taking out primes, taking out the ships. Also the primes, depending on how many extracts they plant, they also become stronger. So there's a kind of interesting dynamic here. There's also something called here Crimson Moon. Crimson Moon is kind of an expansion content, except it's not a paid expansion, it was just added. And there you have a whole bunch of different things, such as races, such as arena battles, and some story seems to be in there. I did not explore it again because I played through the main storyline. This seems to be meant to be a continuation on, but Ubisoft, I don't think, is actually planning to continue on publishing any additional content. So all the stuff that's going to be introduced here is not going to be continued on, and I didn't really have any more interest to play the game, especially after I explored some interesting things about it. But let's get into the game back again. So here we are. So I'm going to head towards the planet. I'm going to show you, it's a seamless transition. There's no loading screen between the actual, as you fly into the planet, you can fly in the planet atmosphere. See, they go, we're going in.
Necrom.
Much as I hate
So the
this
characters
creepy
will
place,
actually
we can't let it
say
get
something
consumed
about
by
the
Legion.
places that you're visiting. There's a different number of characters. If you're gonna look it up here, these are the characters that you have available. Well, I have available in my case. There's actually additional ones also that could be deployed and so on, but this is the ones that I have available to me, and I can switch them on the fly. So if I want to use her, I can use her. If I want to use him, I can use him. They'll be switched on the fly. The game allows you to do that. Each one has a special ability. They say it's a Shadow Strike for this person, Power Chord for this one. I mostly used this character because I like the Vanish ability, which makes my ship invisible, and I kind of prefer that. So there's also different ships. If I choose this, I can select the different ships. Different ships have different stats, as you can see below. Each stats change. That's up to you. You also can customize how additional wings on the ship. All of them also change the stats of your ship. Right there, you can see. Depending on what you choose, you can get different stats. And you can choose your weapons also. Anyway, different weapons do different damage. You can modify the weapons by adding special modifiers. It's kind of interesting, and it was interesting to play with because different also ships collect together in a different way in terms of what I mean collect. It's like, yeah, they do combine. It look, because again, it started as a toy type of a game where you were supposed to be putting the toy together, but in this case, what I mean by collect is that damage combines in different interesting ways, and you can deal damage depending on opponents. So there you go. I'm gonna crash land on the planet because I guess we have problems here with the flight engines. And so I'm gonna go here and I'll show you how the different combat looks. Here we are. We have the different things. You can also do some extra missions here. And so I'm gonna start out attacking different enemies. Different enemies also deal different damage. As you learn which weapons are most effective against different enemies, you can equip different weapons. I find that the current setup for this planet is actually pretty good. It's not the most ultimate weapon damage in terms of that, and you see, I got 2 damage, but because I have ability to vanish, I can disappear, I can deal damage, and I found that to be as an interesting type of ability. And I've been informed that a new Prime has landed on a different planet. Once you destroy enemies, you do have capabilities to get some loot. In this case, it's modifications. Modifications act in such a way, if I press, let's say, on a weapon here, it allows me to add certain qualities to different weapons depending on what I want. Mega range, stronger guns, so on and so on. There's different modifications. They go from something called unique. There's a legendary, epic, rare, uncommon, and common. So, and you can also easily go between them. So you see, this tells me that I can fuse these guys together to produce from rare to something called epic and so on. That's pretty much allows you to do that. You need 3 of each of a kind to do the upgrades. When you do so, when you press and you say, oh, okay, I'm switching weapons, I'm not doing the right thing here. Here it is. I'm gonna fuse them. It tells you the cost in terms of the currency, and it tells you also the cost in terms of the other currency. There's 3 currencies in the game right there, 1, 2, 3, and you buy everything depending on using that kind of currency. So let's proceed. I'm gonna show you the actual mid-level boss fight. I'm gonna go towards that right there. There's a mid-level boss. It's a tower, but it will spawn enemies for me to fight that will be defending it, and so let's try this out.
Analysis. This unit
So there you
absorbs
go.
energy and will explode on impact.
See
And
you
I
later.
lost my ship, so I can quickly switch to a different one. I go in, I do modifications. Let's say I want to switch to what I prefer, greater speed, handling, certain defenses. Let's say I want that. Sure, I'll take that, and I'll take my unique mods that I have managed to acquire. There's also paint jobs that you can earn. You can also buy them on the Crimson Moon expansion. It allows you to buy a bunch of them, but that's fine. If you have some kind of new mods, they'll show up here with that alert icon. So here we are.
I'm hit.
Gravity damage received. Recommend
So
using
we're gonna
stasis
disappear.
weaponry against the enemy.
And the game actually does make suggestions what kind of weaponry to use and so on. You can do that if you want to. I'm having pretty good time right now with the burnt setup, and so I can use what I have to deal with the enemy. Now, in this case, this kind of a mid-boss tower spawns enemies. There are other ones that also have edge capabilities as having additional towers that provide that attack you. Besides enemies that will attack you, so there's that possibility. So I have a certain amount of time before the system again reloads. Not sure what that is. Actually, never seen that. Maybe that's something new.
If you destroy this one.
So there you go. The battles are pretty hectic and very interesting in the way that you do have to master things to make sure that you don't die. You gotta use abilities, otherwise the enemy will tear you apart.
Cold damage is empowering the enemy.
That's an ice giant, and I'm trying to shoot with an ice-based weapon, so that's of course a bad idea. So in that case, let's switch to something else. We're gonna use a missile to deal damage to this guy now from a close quarters perspective. It's a pretty difficult fight right now because I'm dealing with very advanced blasts that also sending out a very good enemies at me. So as such, I have to make sure I'm not I don't die. I keep an eye on my
One down. See you later.
abilities tracker. Things heal the enemies, which is not a good thing.
Extractor is vulnerable. Target the main structure.
Get off me.
So hopefully I'm going to take it down now. There we go, I took it down, and as I take it down, it will tell me that the enemy meter will go down on this planet, and my influence meter on the planet will go up.
Nice work. We've got the location of the
So
extractor that was linked to this one. Marking on your map now.
this pretty much characterizes most of the engagements you're gonna have. You're gonna have most engagements on the planet. There's gonna be some in the air against ships. It's gonna be way similar. The ships will generate enemies. They'll have health points that you need to attack and so on. As you can see, I destroyed the enemies. I'm gonna get some power-ups and such available to me now. So, in a way, the game itself is challenging. It's fun in a way at the same time.
Alert. Readings
And from
indicate
that
a new
perspective,
Legion
I
prime
really
has been
liked it.
deployed in Atlas.
So it tells me that more primes have been deployed, so I need to actually get active and try to contain them. So from all that perspective, right now the game is in a way great. Let's see if I can fly out of here. So it is into space. Let's do that. So if I go on the map now, it will tell me that I'm pretty sure that I got more primes deployed. This must be, this guy only has 2 now. So the story itself is it was pretty interesting, but it kind of was at the same time a Saturday morning or after school special cartoon, because all these characters are pretty much, let me show you the characters again, are pretty much a type of stereotypes that you expect to find in the after school special. And there's not much development into the character, but they all have certain characteristics of them to themselves, and as you going to be to play along, you're gonna find things, they'll narrate and give you a bit more story and such. It's again very interesting from all perspectives. I kind of liked it from all that. Not much of a, like I said, a deep story. This is a bit of an environmental theme, because as you saw, the planet that I just landed was very dark. It looked like it was lots of smoke and such. That's because those reactors, not reactors, the extractors that I just destroyed is supposed to be an intensive mining operation, right? If you go to other planets, and maybe I should do that actually. Let's go to another planet. Let's point myself to another planet, and I'll show you situations there, so that we can go to here. This is closer. I can fast travel. Yep. So once you go onto the planets, on the surface you will find such things as outposts. Some of these outposts are also mining colonies, but they don't mine as intensively, and I think that's the idea. Also throughout the game, you're scanning the wildlife, you're exploring the planet, you are mapping it. So in a way, you're acting as a discoverer, you're not exploiting the resources of the planet. And I nicely hit something. So there we are, we're flying through the atmosphere. I don't really have to land on the planet's surface. I can just fly through the atmosphere. I'm gonna fly to one of the outposts right there. This is one of my outposts that I established.
Starlink. Come offload some cores, we could use them.
As you can see, it tells you that, yeah, by the way, you can also interact with them. And what you can do, you can do missions for them, which is called offer help. I can repair all ships also. Ships I always repair cost 500 of this currency. I can deliver items for a price, as well as if this outpost is already up to level 3, but if it was not, by delivering items you can also upgrade the outpost, which is helpful because they'll provide greater rewards to you. You can also upgrade the outpost through different method, which will require you expenditure from you the currencies. The 2 first currencies. The third one is mostly currency used on the Crimson Moon. It's not used in the actual other sections of the game. So what are these 2 currencies? Well, these 2 currencies are pretty much called Electrum and Nova. The Nova is more rare than the Electrum. Electrum can be found everywhere. You can just find something like this and you shoot that, and right there, this Electrum. This is the Electrum gathering process. Nova are only found if you find those wrecks. If you defeat certain opponents, they'll give you Nova, and that's much more rare, and you need that for construction of outposts. Most outposts you're gonna need Nova to construct them, to upgrade them. Same thing, to fuse different modifications and together to make a more advanced modifications. You're gonna need Nova for that as well. So from that perspective, it's a very rare resource and very necessary one. I did find myself while I was playing in a situation where I did not have enough of it. When it comes to Electrum though, I have enough outposts delivering to me. You will find outposts that do mining Electrum, and if you kind of start working with them, they'll start providing me certain amounts, and I found myself pretty much swimming in Electrum. At some points I didn't really need to mine it. There are ways to mine it. You can mine it yourself, physically finding it on the planets, in space, all that, besides these little boxes that you can also destroy for Electrum, right? The there are other ways to get it. But I found myself that I really don't need that to do that. There's plenty of other stuff around that delivers me Electrum and no problem. So this is pretty much the game. And if this was all of it and I didn't go a bit more researching, I would have said that this is a very cool game and it's a good game. There's not, like I said, there's a bit of environmental theme, but there's not
Your
much here
inventory's looking
besides
empty, Starlink. Come
something
offload
that you
some
will find
cores,
really
we
on the
could use
base
them.
level. In terms of storytelling, nothing really being asked or questioned or so on. Great. So what is the problem? Well, the problem with the game is that when I started out and was choosing the characters, I immediately faced the fact that they were locked characters like this ones. And I figured, well, there has to be some locked characters. I'm guessing as I play through the game, I will be able to unlock them. Well, doesn't look like that way, because they are gathered on my main mothership, which I do upgrade, and I'll talk about it. I guess I should have talked about it before, but I'll talk about it later. It kind of relates to the whole story here. I do upgrade that main mothership, which you don't ever really dock with, but doesn't matter. So I didn't get them. And there's also additional ships here. Now, I never felt really kind of pressed because you switch between ships easily, and this was always enough. Once one of your main ships dies, you can switch quickly into another one, continue on. It's like it's additional lives basically approach here. So I was thinking, so again, I'm not unlocking them, and kind of left it at that. I said, so what? Doesn't matter. I noticed that all this stuff is unlocked in something called the DLC collection too. If you buy them, that's unlocked. That's how I guess the idea was to make the money, by selling you extra stuff. Okay, not exactly something revolutionary, fine. But I decided not to get it, even though I got the game through Uplay Plus, and I thought that I'm going to get all the stuff in the package, but I only got the actual base game and the DLC collection 1. Not the collection 2. And to me, collection 2 did not hold any interest, because by the time I discovered that there was collection 2, I was already well into the game and I was not having any problems playing with what I was given already. But after a bit, I did discover something interesting. Is you see, this guy called Freeze Ray Mach 2. This is just plain volcano. Freeze Ray Mach 2 comes with the collections, the DLC collections. Actually, most of the locked up guns you see here are Mach 2s. So what's the difference between nullifier Mach 2 and a normal nullifier? Well, if you notice, there's 4 mod slots on this one and 5 on this one. So the DLC in a way allows you to buy power. Now, you might say, well, these mods are just minor things, they don't really add that much, and that's what I was thinking also. It's fine, it doesn't add much to the game, doesn't change the game that much, right? So what if there's one extra mod? I'm still playing just fine with the weapons that was given. Again, not much of a problem. But then, almost right before finishing the game, the main story, I decided to look into see what was the collection 1 actually containing, the DLC collection 1 contained. And I discovered that the DLC collection 1 contained other Mach 2 weapons like I have here, Shredder Mach 2, and it also contained something else. It contained some of these characters, like her. She's a locked-in character behind the DLC collection 1. Same as him and him. So what's the big deal? Well, I'll show you. You see, the main ship can be upgraded here. This I upgrade all the sections of it. Different things do different things. Like here, this allows you to produce more and more modifications. This allows you to carry more stuff. And as you look at the requirements, it tells you, well, in order to do so, you need to have your pilot at certain levels. Great. Then, once you do so, you will unlock the ability to buy the modifications, which also cost Electrum and Nova. But then there's also this: Expedition Wing, Defensive Ops, and Outlaw Barracks. So these 3 modifications require you to have certain pilots. Oh, the pilot from DLC Collection 1 and pilot from DLC Collection 2. So only they can collect the levels, experience levels that will contribute towards this unlocking. And that's actually pretty good stuff here. In the end, it will give you a greater amount of a type of deliverables that your allies will be giving you. It will give you them better shields to the allied units, which is actually pretty important, I found to be. Same thing for the other one. Again, the 2 characters locked behind DLC I need for this one, and for this one, the 3 characters locked behind the DLC paywall. So, without these guys, your allied units, which I use mostly to hold out against the enemies, like against the primes, because these allied units will be fighting on your behalf, and you can come in, and sometimes I will be coming in to destroy an extractor, and I'll find that my allied units are already attacking, so I'm just assisting in some ways, and it's pretty good because it reduces the time you need to kind of do things you need to do to complete the stuff on the planet, complete your main missions. So all that
we got so many prospector pals.
is actually is done because your allies are helping you out. Otherwise, it becomes a much more tougher grind. So, in other words, if you don't buy DLC, you're faced with a much tougher grind, or you can just buy DLC and kind of get power-ups in the game. That's a bit of a iffy monetization strategy here, because how do I know that the game is not made to be too grindy, specifically to force people to buy DLC? And at this moment, I'm now wondering how much is gameplay compromised for me, because I happen to use this Uplay Plus subscription, and I got this first DLC in, and so the game was not maybe as tough or challenging, you can say, than if I didn't have it. Because I actually never used a single one of those base characters, the ones that come in with the base game. I only used these 3. These were the main characters I always used. And so, by that way, I unlocked all the additional stuff. I never needed to use any of the base characters. So, how come? So, I started questioning the idea is that how much of enjoyment of the game was due to the fact that I did get a leg up, and if I didn't get it, I would not have enjoyed it. So this to me was a changing factor, and this is to me is the reason I actually decided I'm not gonna do everything in the game anymore. I just don't want to anymore. Seeing that this kind of monetization strategy that was applied in this case, I just don't like it. So because of that, and as far as my opinion is that such a monetization strategy is not cool. It's not cool. This is a uncool game. I would say very much uncool game, because it's kind of a sleazy way to monetize, especially the game that was meant to appeal to kids, right? And I'm not gonna say that's an okay game. It's not good. Also, I'm gonna drop down the rating here. And by the way, right now I'm heading towards one of those wrecks that you can find on the map that will give you Nova. But I'm not gonna do that. I think I'm just gonna call it the end at this point. And I would say thank you for watching, for listening. Please like and subscribe.